heavy at times, but whilst other regions should see some decent sunny spells poking their way through as well. Now, some of these showers, particularly in the north, could turn heavy with some hail, maybe even some rumbles of thunder, and it will be quite breezy throughout today across northern areas of Scotland. The winds here should ease off a little later on in the day, things beginning to calm down as we head towards the evening period. Whilst I can't rule out the odd shower a little bit further towards the south, most of England and Wales really should be staying largely dry, and there will be many areas here that actually stay dry right throughout the day, and where you see that sunshine, feeling pleasantly warm with highs of 17, maybe 18 degrees Celsius. But do just be aware, can't rule out the odd shower here even so. But with that high pressure continuing to move in as we head into tonight, skies will turn relatively clear for many of us. A few mist and fog patches are possible, but mainly underneath those clearer skies, temperatures will drop down a bit. So around 3 to 4 degrees Celsius for many, but a touch of frost is certainly possible out towards Northern Ireland, maybe some sheltered areas of Scotland as well, just to start off Sunday morning. But really, Sunday is the best day for all of us to be getting outside if you wish to. Plenty of sunshine and sunny spells throughout. The showers now really just confined to parts of the East Anglian coastline, parts of the far northeast of Scotland as well. But a fine dry day for many with light winds now. Temperatures a little down compared to some recent days, relatively 15 to 16 degrees Celsius, but it will still feel pleasant where you see that sunshine. Into next week, though, eastern areas will start to see a few more showers on the way, and it will turn a little cooler as well.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks remaining to grab your chance to win our biggest prize of the year so far. Just in time for summer, you could be driving away with your very own 4-berth camper van. We'll also give you an incredible £25,000 in tax-free cash. Lines close on the 1st of May, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck!
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Marmalade, a British breakfast staple, could soon be getting a rebrand under a post-Brexit food deal with the EU.
Well, the new agreement lines Britain up to EU rules, which have changed since Brexit. This could force shops to rename marmalade citrus marmalade, as Britain aligns with those new European rules.
I think they might be taking the pith on this one. What do you reckon? Joining us now to discuss these changes is Jane Hassel-McCosh, marmalade maker and founder of the Dalmain World of Marmalade Awards. Wow, that sounds pretty impressive. What do you make of this, Jane?
Well, I think it's interesting. I think it's actually very good news. I think that why are they having to redefine it? Well, the answer is that marmalade is on the up. Our citrus marmalade is on the up. And so it now really does have to be defined. Whereas when I started this competition 21 years ago, we got 60 jars coming in, all good Seville orange marmalade. And today we have the most incredible assortment of entries. We get entries from artisan, small commercial producers. And that's where I think the problem will be, that all the artisan producers are going to have to remake their labels, which is expensive and difficult.
Expensive and pointless. I mean, to me, marmalade is very clear. It's a sort of orangey, jammy thing, and it's very nice. And if there's a sort of marmalade that's not made with oranges, that's made with another sort of either citrus or indeed non-citrus fruit, as the Europeans call their marmalades, which I don't really think counts as marmalade, yeah. But anyway, that's by the by. We're now saying that orange marmalade can't be just called marmalade.
GB News, the People's Channel.
More and more people are now tuning in to GB News.
They shape our programmes, we try and incorporate them in our shows as much as we can.
Our audience are really interactive. from our listeners, our viewers. They're growing.
And that's because they tell their friends and family about what we're doing here at GB News.
It feels like the depth of that connection has strengthened as well.
Thank you so much for speaking to us on GB News. Come and say hello to everybody that's here from GB News.
It's been an exceptional event.
We've come a long way here,
What's so unique about GB News viewers is that they really, really love our country.
And they talk about us so proudly. We're on a journey together.
We are here for all of Britain. We believe in this country, we believe in its people, and we believe in all of the communities who live here.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Saturday the 18th of April, live across the UK. This is Saturday Morning Live.
Staggering and unforgivable, Sir Keir Starmer says he wasn't told about Peter Mandelson's failed security vetting. So who knew and why didn't he?
Plus, reports say top aides knew of this scandal for weeks, with new claims that the Prime Minister has lost control inside Number 10.
And Iran says the Strait of Hormuz is now back under its control, warning it's closed again unless ships get approval, as Donald Trump presses on with the US blockade. So are we heading for a full-blown energy shock?
And with Tehran and Washington telling completely different stories, that's putting it mildly, and markets swinging on every update, just what's going on?
And is it a royal tour or a rebrand? Prince Harry and Meghan's Down Under tour comes to a close. So, was it a success?
And it's 1 year on from a landmark Supreme Court ruling on single-sex spaces. What actually changed under Sir Keir Starmer, with guidance still unpublished by his government? What's behind the delay?
Bigger stories, boldest opinions and liveliest debates over the next 2 hours. I'm Olivia Utley.
And I'm Cameron Walker, and your weekend starts here. Well, the Prime Minister yet again in hot water, a bit of a sticky situation for him. I just don't understand how it appears that the Prime Minister did not know about any of this vetting procedures, or indeed his top team. Why does his top team not brief him?
To be honest, what gets me is either way it's terrible. Either he knew and he lied, or he didn't know, in which case, why didn't he know? What I'm beginning to suspect is that Number 10 really wanted this appointment to go through. They made it very clear about that for the last 3 months of 2024. They appointed the man, and then it was revealed that the developed vetting hadn't been passed. And at that point, Ollie Robbins, the senior civil servant in charge of the vetting, felt, well, I've got to let this pass because the Prime Minister wants it so much. In which case, it's kind of Keir Starmer's fault that he didn't know.
Yeah, it appears Ollie Robbins has been put in a little bit of a difficult situation. Kemi Badenoch, of course, the Conservative leader, is saying that the Prime Minister is not in control of his own office. This is clearly a bit of an open goal in terms of opposition MPs being allowed to criticise Starmer like this.
Well, absolutely. Well, we're now joined by David Pinto. David, do you think that Keir Starmer can survive this?
Of course, I mean, look, this is frankly a bit ridiculous. This is a Prime Minister who is furious, and he's right to be furious. He's a good man I trust, a man my colleagues trust, who's been let down fundamentally by the bureaucratic process. This isn't a personal failure. This is a state failure. And in fact, what's not being disputed here by anyone of good faith, so to speak, and certainly by Ollie Robbins, is that he didn't tell Downing Street, he didn't tell the Prime Minister, and he didn't tell ministers. So this is something that was actively kept from ministers and the Prime Minister. And what's also not being disputed is that he used his discretion to override the UK vetting agency guidance, the UK vetting agency findings. So this is an extraordinary state failing. And by the way, this is a process that has existed for many, many years. And so, look, it's a huge failure of state. I know that other political parties are trying to make hay out of it. But frankly, I think some of these allegations we hear from someone like Kemi Badenoch just shows they, frankly, don't understand the process, as I say, because it is classically and has always been independent of ministers. And so it's a huge state failure. And that's why, it's absolutely right that Darren Jones, the Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, ended this loophole that's existed for years where departments can overrule vetting. And it's why we're putting in, kind of broader reform, looking at broader state reform, because we can't have failures like this.
David, why did the Prime Minister announce Mandelson's appointments before vetting was complete? Surely that's a political decision on the Prime Minister's part, which kind of backed the Foreign Office into a corner.
It's not unusual for people to be appointed before all their developed vetting is completed. And I can talk about this not least because I have been through developed vetting. So I've held a range of roles in Whitehall myself. I've been through security clearance a number of times, and for some jobs, developed vetting, by the way, just so people understand, can take months and months and months. It is rightly, to protect our national security, an enormously intrusive process that takes quite a long time. And so it's not that unusual in some government jobs to do some initial vetting, make sure you pass a kind of minimum bar, but then that's why it's called developed vetting. It is vetting that sits on top that often happens after an appointment.
I'm sorry, David, I just don't think that defence will wash. Peter Mandelson was a hugely controversial figure. We all knew, everyone in Westminster and people beyond Westminster knew what a shady character he was, knew about his dealings with Epstein, knew about his relationship with China. If you're going to be careful about anyone, it's going to be Peter Mandelson. Surely Keir Starmer should have done everything he possibly could to make sure that in that particular instance, due process really was followed. It was such a controversial appointment.
Hang on, sorry, but we've got to step in. Due process was followed. This is why it's such a big state failure. The Prime Minister and Downing Street, and indeed the FCDO, followed the process. That has been the process for years. It was due process, but what this has flagged up, what this has shone a spotlight on, is the fact that our vetting process has this deep flaw in it.
I think Keir Starmer's hiding behind process here.
No, but it's not. But hang on, you can't have it both ways. You can't say he should have ensured that due process was followed, and then when I say yes, he did, you say, well, but you're hiding behind process. You yourself have just said he should have followed it, and that's exactly what he did. But what this has done is shone a light on the fact that the process itself is flawed, and that's why the second this came out, the first thing the government did was ended the exemption that allows departments to override the UK Vetting Agency findings, because that's the really key thing. And as I say, this has been the process for years and years and years. But look, as someone who's been around Whitehall for many years myself, until this came out on Thursday night, I had no idea that departments had the discretion to simply overrule the UK Vetting Agency. That is unacceptable, and it's right that we put a stop to that. But the story here is that the Prime Minister did follow the process, but the process is flawed. This is about state failure, and that's what we've got to address.
David, Downing Street says that the Prime Minister found out about all of this on Tuesday night. Of course, he was in the Commons on Wednesday for PMQs. He had ample opportunity to put the facts before MPs, but waited until after the Guardian expose. Why did he do that?
Absolutely right that the Prime Minister, before he comes to the House, gets things legally checked, checks things with the Metropolitan Police. Bear in mind, there are live criminal investigations going on, which he must not prejudice, and which we as lawmakers must not prejudice. He needs to check it with the security agencies, etc. Otherwise, I would have been in this studio on Thursday afternoon, and you'd be saying to me, why did he come to the House before he was ready? And also, if he'd just come and said, this has happened, I can't tell you anything more, his answer to every question would have been, I'm sorry, I can't tell you that. And you would have absolutely ripped strips off me for saying, how dare you come into the House and then not answer questions? So he's done the right thing. He's very rapidly collecting the facts, making sure, making clear that he doesn't prejudice a criminal investigation, and coming to the House to give a full and transparent account on Monday. That is the right thing to do.
David, everyone who has ever dealt with Ollie Robbins says that he's the most straight-laced, most straightforward career civil servant. What possible ulterior motive do you think he had for overturning the developed vetting process? If not, that he believed that Keir Starmer really wanted Peter Mandelson in the job, and he felt that it was his job as a civil servant to make what the Prime Minister wanted happen?
I'm not going to speculate on what Ollie Robbins was thinking when he made these decisions, but what is clear is the decisions he made were not right. That what's become clear since is his defence appears to be, and look, obviously we'll hear more on Tuesday, that he was literally prohibited from telling anybody, about what he'd done. And by the way, what's not at dispute? In a few days, 24 hours ago, people were saying, well, have people covered up? No, there is no dispute that the Prime Minister wasn't told, right? But his defence is, I couldn't tell people anything about what I've done. Now, what's since come out, and we know this because of the work the Cabinet Office has done when they actually got this information, that of course you can't disclose the content of a vetting file. Absolutely not. That would prejudice people's personal information. It would also potentially damage national security. But but would there have been a way where he could have at least flagged, but there are, I can't tell you what they are, I can tell you there are concerns. Well, the very fact that the Permanent Secretary of the Cabinet Office was able to do that to the Prime Minister and flag that this has happened showed that there was probably a way through, right? And so I think there are real questions as to whether parts of Ollie Robbins's argument stacks up. But look, I'm not going to speculate on what was in his head. What is clear is he made the wrong decision, and it's right that he's gone.
I think senior officials in the Cabinet Office waited weeks before flagging this vetting failure to the Prime Minister. Are they to blame as well? Is it in your opinion, David, is it individuals who are to blame, or is it out-of-date processes? Because I don't know if the second option is going to fly with the public or opposition MPs.
I mean, but this is also about being honest and having the right answer. So you're trying to put everything through a kind of political lens. Firstly, let's be clear. This is a massive case of state failure. I think what this is, as I say, shone a spotlight on, and as I say, I come back to it because it's really important. People who've been around Whitehall for decades, who worked in government for decades, none of us had any idea that departments had this kind of override button they were able to press. And so I think it has shone a real spotlight on that, and that's why we are changing the process, because that is unacceptable, and it's been the process for years, by the way. And apparently, Mandelson may not have been the only person to have benefited from this override function over the years. But but more broadly, I'm not going to criticise the Cabinet Office. They got this information, they released it, I think, as quickly as they could. But as I say, they have to go through legal checks, and critically, you wouldn't want, and your viewers wouldn't want, them to release something so fast when it would prejudice a criminal inquiry, and that's really important. So I think they've moved with all deliberate speed. But again, I come back. The Prime Minister was told on Tuesday evening. I mean, the fact that PM was told only a few days ago, is kind of really shocking. And he's coming to Parliament, really soon to tell us everything he knows. But to your point, is this a failure of the state, and is this a failure of the bureaucracy and of the bureaucratic process? Absolutely.
One very, very last quick question. I want a yes or no answer, please. 8 years ago, Amber Rudd resigned as Home Secretary. She was given duff information by her civil servants. It wasn't her fault. Everyone accepted that it wasn't her fault, that she had the wrong information. But she believed that the buck stopped with her and that she should have known what she didn't know. Do you think she did the right thing then by resigning?
Enough about that case. I don't think that is a yes or no answer. What I'm clear on is the Prime Minister didn't know. He's a good man. He's a man I trust. He's the right man to lead the country, and especially now when he's stopped us being dragged into a major war that others would have dragged us into. That is exactly the leadership we need.
OK, Labour MP for Hendon, David Pinto, thank you for joining us.
Well, tensions in the Middle East are escalating again, with Iran warning the Strait of Hormuz will now shut, with passage requiring Tehran's approval.
Well, meanwhile, Donald Trump insists the US blockade will continue until a deal is done, despite Iran warning that could trigger further escalation.
Well, joining us now is former British Army spokesperson Major Mike Shearer. Major Mike, thank you so much for joining us on Saturday Morning Live. Can you just explain to us what on earth is happening here? Because 10 minutes before we came into the show, the Strait of Hormuz was open and we were all celebrating. Now it seems to be closed again.
Yes, on the bus, off the bus. The reality is right now, while Trump has the cards, he is not holding them. In order to open the straits, if he wants to force them open, better negotiated, but if he needs to force them open, he will need to use all 5 dimensions of warfare: land, sea, air, space, and the ether, cyber. He's used nearly all of those things except one. The most important part right now would be land. And he's going to need at least another 200 either Marines and or soldiers to get on the ground and dig out the IRGC. At the minute, the people that do hold the cards are the IRGC. They are calling the shots, not Trump. And look, Trump went into this war on the notion that he was going to help the people of Iran. He seems to have conveniently forgotten that. The people of Iran are in as perilous a state as they've ever been. Trump says there has been a regime change because he killed all the top-tier people. That's not true. There has been personality change, but the regime still exists. And I'm afraid we have to wait on what the IRGC say until we can trust those straits open, not Donald Trump.
The UK and France announced that they're going to be leading a strictly defensive, what they described as a multinational mission to protect shipping in the Straits of Hormuz. Do you think the allies, the UK, France and others who are doing defensive actions in the Straits of Hormuz is going to make a difference whatsoever, or are they just trying to pretend they're important?
This is white noise. I mean, it's pointless political platitude. Look, Donald Trump has called out his NATO partners for not helping. First of all, in my opinion, it is a noble effort to get rid of the IRGC. It is a noble effort. And the United Kingdom and our European partners certainly should have joined in, but it's not a NATO effort. So everybody knows of NATO Article 5, an attack on one is an attack on all. People very rarely speak about Article 3, which states that each nation-state must have a military toolkit that consists of materiel and soldiers, sailors and airmen in order to fulfill their NATO duty. Very importantly, Article 4 says that if any member of NATO feels that their territory or their political freedoms are under threat, they must then get together and chat through it with their NATO partners and conclude what to do about it. Donald Trump did not do that. So calling out NATO on this, he's wrong. But our European partners and the United Kingdom were wrong and spineless not to join in and help.
How do we stop Iran just closing the Strait of Hormuz whenever it fancies at the drop of a hat? Iran has essentially realised that this is a very cheap and easy way for them to impose total chaos on the entire global economy. How are we going to stop them just opening and closing it whenever they fancy?
Look, the first thing almost any sailor learns when they go to sailor school is the 5 choke points of the planet. This is all predictable stuff. This is not something, oh my good God, we didn't see this coming. Anybody with any military nous knew that this was going to happen. But to answer your question, as I mentioned a short while ago, Trump needs to employ all 5 dimensions of warfare. People have to get on the ground and dig out the IRGC. And for all those bleeding hearts out there that say we don't need to get into this war, what are you going to miss most about the IRGC? The killing of their civilians in tens of thousands? Or the jailing and persecution for the way your freedom of speech and the way you dress? Come on. The only way of doing it is to get on the ground and dig them out.
Well, the president appears to be trying to find some kind of off-ramp to this war. It doesn't look like he's preparing for a ground invasion.
He most certainly, look, he knows he's under time pressure now. The midterm elections are already well underway. The electioneering there is happening. Come November of this year, Trump will be a zombie president. So whatever he's got to do, he's got to do now. He will, even if he leaves now, he will not recover from it. So my advice to the President, if he's listening, is get on with it and finish the job.
Well, I very much hope that Donald Trump is listening to Saturday Morning Live on GB News. Thank you very much for joining us. That was former British Army spokesperson Major Mike Shearer.
Thank you. The time is 18 minutes past 10. Coming up, we'll speak to Michael Hartung, former Invictus Games chief and organiser, who's been with Prince Harry and Meghan in Sydney this week.
But next, more than a dozen pubs called the Duke of York have closed since Andrew Mountbatten's Windsor's friendship with Jeffrey Epstein was revealed. We'll be going through that, plus the rest of today's papers with our panel. This is Saturday Morning Live on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
School uniforms are much more than clothing. They are about signalling a seriousness about learning and behaviour, particularly for older children. I think it is a little bit different with the youngest ones, where we want to encourage them to run around, burn off some energy at break time. But generally, this slide towards casualness in our society. And I think this does reflect that a little bit, that everybody should be comfortable. Comfort and sort of casualness should be the order of the day at all times. And I actually think that there's a time and a place for that. Probably on your sofa at home. It's it's when you're lounging around. But when you're at school, wearing a smarter uniform as you get older in particular does create this air of respecting your environment, respecting yourself, and respecting what you're there to do.
The problem is it can't be a one-size-fits-all. I went to a boarding school where they had a very traditional uniform, but even I have to concede that the environment in which I was educated, it was conducive to following the rule of law. There was a hierarchical system where there's the headmistress, there's the teacher, there's the academic staff, there's the pastoral staff, and everyone follows the law. That's the way that institution worked. But that governmental system doesn't work with every kind of school. And what you also have to take into account is that listen to educators. They are there with the children 24/7 when they are in school. And this discussion on a flexibility towards uniform is reflected by what is best for the children. You want children to not be lethargic. You want them to not be sedentary. They need to be more active. They have to have the kind of uniform that makes that easier for them because they feel freer in those uniforms.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow. We can allow.
Politics, policy, Parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live, and to look through the top stories of today, we're delighted to be joined by Aman Bogle and Scarlett Maguire. Welcome to you both. Scarlett, I'm going to start with you. A bit of a move away from Peter Mandelson. I'm sure we'll be talking about him later. Yes. Really interesting story in the Daily Mail. Weight loss drugs are triggering significant muscle loss. The more we hear about these drugs, the sort of scarier they seem.
I know, because all the sort of bad people like me go, you can't have something without there being a side effect, right? But if you think of some of the famous women who've taken them, I mean, their faces look absolutely dreadful.
They look gaunt.
Gaunt, and I mean, and actually, when they were slightly larger, they were sort of nice and puffy. And I mean, I do think, Look, I think it would be great if obese people could find a way to lose weight, because obviously, there's no point in talking to them about diets or anything. Something has gone really, really badly wrong. But I just think, I think that we're going to find more and more wrong with these weight loss jabs, and I do worry about them.
I think, as with most things, if it's artificial, and if it's artificially trying to affect a change that can be had naturally, then we just don't know the long-term effects of such a medical intervention. But what's even more concerning, I would argue, is that as the patents expire over the next 5 years, we're going to see a lot of generic Ozempic drugs coming into the market. It's already beginning to happen in the Canadian market and the Indian market. I think it's another 5 years or so to go till the patents expire in Europe and in America. And that's going to make it even more viable for a lot more people to take it that might perhaps be better off just burning calories otherwise.
Do you think there's a balancing act to have here? Because I think Wes Streeting, the health secretary, has talked about perhaps the potential benefits of weight loss drugs in the past to ease the pressure on the NHS, giving it to obese people who perhaps are really struggling to lose weight, versus those who perhaps take it for aesthetic reasons and then get themselves into all sorts of problems.
I think you're completely right, because I remember a GP telling me when he was being trained, he said if we didn't have any fat people or old people, the hospitals would be empty, right? They are the people who take most. But actually, and I think that if you are morbidly obese, that you have an incredible problem, and there's no point in saying but you have to be strong and all of that. But two friends of mine were talking about taking it. They didn't talk to me about it over Christmas, and one of them went to the doctor to talk about it, and the doctor went, absolutely not, you've already got certain health problems, you can't take it. And these people could have lost a stone, right? But we're not, and I think you're right. I think that if we look at the celebrities who are taking it, most of them are just a bit overweight, and then they have these terrible faces.
But I mean, I think we're all a bit kind of squeamish about it. It feels unnatural, as you say. But I suppose if you're unhappy carrying a bit of extra weight, and so many people on these drugs say that it makes them feel amazing, is it for us to say? Does it matter if we think that their faces look a bit gaunt?
Look, I'm all for personal individual liberty and choice. And I think if people want to go with that look, then that's their a complete independence to do so. But when it comes to the unknown impacts in the future, that could be there, that could again have an impact on the National Health Service, or in fact, even for individual people to deal with down the line. Well, I think that's something that seriously has to be given due consideration. And I think a lot of the advice that is coming through, that just through a few clicks, you can put yourself on Ozempic. I think there has to be far more scrutiny of that.
Let's move on to perhaps a slightly sobering scenario for pubs, bearing the name up and down the country of the Duke of York. Of course, there's been several Dukes of York throughout history, but perhaps the most notable one is one which now lost the title, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. What's going on here?
Well, the pubs are saying we don't want, because of course in the old days and not so quite recently, being the Duke of York, Andrew was a great prince, blah blah blah, and pubs were proud to have it. And can I say, most of these pubs, I mean, are hundreds of years old. They weren't put up for Andrew. They were put, as you say, there have been many Dukes of York, quite a few Dukes of York who are a bit dodgy. But anyway, but none as dodgy as the former.
Yes, but of course he has denied all the allegations.
He has denied every allegation and says that he's never done anything wrong. But the court of public opinion has decided, and the media, that something else. And so they're changing their name.
But I mean, Alan, it says here that, more than a dozen pubs called the Duke of York have closed, implying that is why those pubs have closed. Surely that's not true. I mean, are that many people in the country even aware that Andrew was the Duke of York? And are they really going to think, I don't want to go to my local because of the association with Prince Andrew?
I think just beneath the veneer, I think it's a more serious story, which is that around 8 pubs
that is a very serious
closing
story.
every week on average. And I think that's a great indictment of where we are as a country in terms of, well, the pubs have traditionally been our centre of local communities and all the rest of it. And yet we face this challenge of 8 pubs closing every week. And I think, let's be honest, I think the whole idea that they're closing because a dozen of them were called Duke of York. I mean, 8 Duke of Yorks have existed since 1385. The first one, Edward of Langley. And I think, well, perhaps they could have rebranded themselves as, well, we go back to 1385.
I think it's quite a good tradition naming pubs out after certain royals. I think there's a Prince Harry in Windsor, of course, perhaps a slightly more another controversial character. But there's the Prince of Wales in South London, near where I live as well, which Charles actually went to support pubs during COVID.
There's a Duchess of Cambridge in Windsor, which was presumably named for Kate, which wasn't very long-sighted because, of course, she's now the Princess of Wales. But there is also a pub in Soho that was called the Prince Andrew and was plastered with photos of Prince Andrew. So they've actually renamed themselves to call themselves the Duke of York. So they feel that that's a more appropriate name. They haven't closed down.
Well,
No, it's a very popular pub. Lovely pub, actually. Highly recommend.
Well, let us know what you think. If you think we should, if there's a pub near you called the Duke of York or another slightly unfortunately named pub, gbnews.com/your say. Very quickly, something else that's closed this morning, Strait of Hormuz again. What's this going to do for oil prices in the UK? There's a lot of talk about what's going on in the Middle East, and to be honest, a lot of our viewers and us can't control much about it. But how is it going to affect us here in Britain?
Well, obviously, when they opened, was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
I mean, the whole Iran war moves so fast that I can never keep up. When they opened, Brent crude went down by $10, right? Immediately, and the stock markets went up. And interestingly, the oil companies' predicted profits went down because, of course, they are making a fortune. But it moves very, very fast. I mean, what's happened is somehow the Americans thought that the Iranians say, OK, we'll open it. And the Americans said, well, that's fine, but we're going to keep our blockade. I mean, you just think, come on, guys, let's think about the rest of the world for a change. Get rid of your blockade. Iranians open it and then go back and talk about it. I mean, that's what the Iranians closed the Straits of Hormuz because they could, right? And then the Americans said, well, we can be horrible too.
Yeah.
But actually, they should have both opened it. And one hopes that the Pakistanis will say, come on, let's get back to the table, and before we get back to the table, open the Straits of Hormuz. So the rest of the world that is getting really, really cross, because why should we suffer from a war that we've said we don't want anything to do with?
Mum, final word to you. Do you think it's helping that President Trump appears to be giving us a running commentary on Truth Social?
Absolutely. I think he's the leader of the free world, and he's certainly more transparent than our leaders are here in the UK. We just don't know whether the Prime Minister took one piece of advice or took another piece of advice. I mean, look, President Trump is leading from the front in this, and he's pinched them where it hurts them the most. The IRGC are in control of Iran right now, and they know that until the Americans remove their blockade, that they're not going to be able to hold control of Iran, and that's what matters. But coming back home here, I think, look, at the pumps, the impact for us ordinary motorists and taxpayers could have been lessened. Let's not forget the Labour government is raking in about £20 million a day in fuel duty. That's something they could have reduced and helped ordinary people with.
And I think they might still do that if the pressure gets to them in the end. But Aman and Scarlett, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to talking to you very soon.
Right, the time is 31 minutes past 10, still to come. 1 year after a landmark Supreme Court ruling meant to settle the debate on gender. So why is there still no guidance? What's the Labour government doing, and what's actually changed?
But next, how has Prince Harry and Meghan's Australia tour really gone down on the ground? We'll speak to a reporter who's actually there with the couple. This is Saturday Morning Live on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, a very good morning to you. This is your latest GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. For many of us, it is an improving storyline as we head throughout this weekend, all courtesy of this area of high pressure that's going to be moving in from the southwest. It is moving very slowly though, and so low pressure is still in charge across northern regions today. That's also providing some rain across the very far southeast. That should clear through pretty quickly, but it's mainly parts of western Scotland and Northern Ireland that will see fairly frequent showers over the course of today. Those could turn heavy at times, but whilst other regions should see some decent sunny spells poking their way through as well. Now, some of these showers, particularly in the north, could turn heavy with some hail, maybe even some rumbles of thunder, and it will be quite breezy throughout today across northern areas of Scotland. The winds here should ease off a little later on in the day, things beginning to calm down as we head towards the evening period. Whilst I can't rule out the odd shower a little bit further towards the south, most of England and Wales really should be staying largely dry, and there will be many areas here that actually stay dry right throughout the day, and where you see that sunshine, feeling pleasantly warm with highs of 17, maybe 18 degrees Celsius. But do just be aware, can't rule out the odd shower here even so. But with that high pressure continuing to move in as we head into tonight, skies will turn relatively clear for many of us. A few mist and fog patches are possible, but mainly underneath those clearer skies, temperatures will drop down a bit. So around 3 to 4 degrees Celsius for many, but a touch of frost is certainly possible out towards Northern Ireland, maybe some sheltered areas of Scotland as well, just to start off Sunday morning. But really, Sunday is the best day for all of us to be getting outside if you wish to. Plenty of sunshine and sunny spells throughout. The showers now really just confined to parts of the East Anglian coastline, parts of the far northeast of Scotland as well. But a fine dry day for many with light winds now. Temperatures a little down compared to some recent days, relatively 15 to 16 degrees Celsius, but it will still feel pleasant where you see that sunshine. Into next week though, eastern areas will start to see a few more showers on the way, and it will turn a little cooler as well.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It is 25 to 11. And the Duke and Duchess of Sussex Australia tour has wrapped up, with sources close to the couple calling it a success.
But how has it really gone down on the ground in Australia? Was it this half-in, half-out model, which I remember, I think, the late Queen band about 6 years ago? Never mind, or something else entirely, of course.
Well, joining us now is News.com senior royal reporter Bronte Coy. Now, Bronte, you were actually there on the tour. Sources close to the couple are calling it a success. Would you call it a success? Were they popular?
Well, certainly that's what I was hearing as well. I think the team was really happy with how it all went. In the lead up to the tour, honestly, I think it was anyone's guess how this was actually going to go down, because headlines about the couple in recent years have been really similar to what's been written about them in Britain. That sentiment is very much reflected there. There has been a lot of controversy, and they appeared to have a lot of critics. So it was anyone's guess what was going to happen when they were out there in the public on those few little occasions there. But I've got to be honest, I was standing next to them the whole week, and it was all really positive. Although I will say, of course, they were taking part in engagements that were hand-picked as ones that they were, things that they had been involved in many years. These are communities that they're very close with. For example, Harry with the military community and Invictus community. They were working with mental health charities and things that they championed for a number of years. But I do have to say, I didn't know how it was going to go. I didn't know if there would be any pushback by the public, because certainly after I broke the story a couple of months ago that they were going to be going to Australia, a petition began with more than 40,000 signatures demanding they not be a drain on any taxpayer funds, and that was sent to me repeatedly. So I thought anything could happen here, but on the ground it was very positive.
Well, let's talk about that taxpayer funding, actually, because from what I could see, there was big media scrums, there was lots of members of the public, there was far less security than I experienced when I was with the King and Queen in Australia a couple of years ago. There were some police, weren't there? But they were more for kind of crowd control. What do you think the security situation was like for the couple themselves? Bearing in mind, of course, that Harry refuses to bring Meghan to the UK over security concerns.
Well, this was the most talked about part of the tour in the lead up to it. Rightly, as you say, this made loads of headlines because, of course, people were saying that they shouldn't be costing taxpayers any money because they're no longer working royals and they're not representing the monarchy. And they are, in fact, earning money while they're there. It was a commercial and a philanthropic trip. So that security detail, as you pointed out, it was smaller than what we would have seen for an official royal visit, I should say. But it was a privately funded operation by the couple, and that was their team was at pains to stress that point when there was that initial blowback about the taxpayer funds. Now, with that said, New South Wales Police and Victoria Police still did have a security presence that was enhanced. They called it an operation, and it was mostly just about public safety. That's how it was told to us in the press. They said that they would they assess these situations when there's high-profile individuals visiting town, and they decide based on that. So when we were out at these engagements, I looked around to see how many police there were going to be there to sort of gauge how much it would be costing. But honestly, even at the larger events, which is, for example, Bondi, which was yesterday, there was not that many police at all. There was probably less than a dozen. And certainly in Victoria, when they had a public walking tour, when there was people running up to them and getting selfies and having a chat, there was maybe 8 or 9 police officers, and they were just sort of keeping their distance and watching the public. And that, again, the aspect of that was it is for public safety as opposed to being sort of personal bodyguards for Harry and Meghan.
In 2018, I think, Meghan and Harry, when they were still working royals, went on a tour of Australia, and someone overheard Meghan saying, "I can't believe I'm not being paid for this." She now seems to essentially be going on what is, in all but name, a royal tour, all the trappings of a royal tour, but getting paid for it. Is this not exactly the half-in, half-out model that Queen Elizabeth said would not be allowed?
It does look a lot like exactly what they pitched when they first suggested that they were going to leave royal life. They wanted the half-in, half-out model, exactly as you say. They wanted to see if they could fund their own lives in some ways and have these commercial enterprises, but also undertake some official duties. And it did feel exactly like a royal tour for a lot of the tour. And as I said, you know, they were at these engagements where they were so warmly received. So, you know, these groups and communities were really happy to have them, but it did look like a royal tour. And this has obviously been jarring for some people because, you know, the conversations back then at the Sandringham Summit, you know, it was made very clear that the late Queen did not want a model where royals were able to earn money and then mix that with their philanthropic and charity work because it can get quite messy. So, but this did effectively look like it was the half-in, half-out model of that. And she had her speaking engagement to wrap it all up on Friday afternoon at a wellness retreat for women, and Harry had one at a mental health summit earlier in the week.
Bronte, as you said, they appear to get quite a warm reception in Australia, and there has been a lot of noise about how it's being perceived as half-in, half-out. What do you think King Charles or Prince William will be thinking about this trip? Because, as you say, it looks very royal, it looks very half-in, half-out, which is exactly what they scrapped about in the Sandringham Summit 6 years ago. I mean, how are they going to react to this?
Well, you'd have to think they are keeping a keen eye on it, and not least of which is simply to see, as I said at the beginning, how they were going to be received, because we really had no idea of what that actually looks like. It's one thing to have all the headlines about them, but it is quite another to have them out and about meeting people and seeing how people are responding to them and what the public sentiment is. So I'm certain that there would be a keen eye on how that's been unfolding here, particularly as Harry's picked up a few more sort of charity visits in Britain over the last 12 months. There's been an uptick in that area. So I think that there would be a keen eye on it. But the other difficulty, of course, that they have, and this is the trouble with the half-in, half-out model, is that they aren't representing the monarchy and they're not there on official duty, so they're also not getting briefed on any issues. Now, we didn't run into any troubles as far as I see in that regard in terms of them meeting with politicians or official figures here in Australia, but that is the difficulty, of course, because they're not within that patch where they know about the relationships, the briefings that go on between England and Australia in terms of those diplomatic ties. So you would imagine that it was being watched very carefully. I do think that they seem to avoid any of those pitfalls, but that would, of course, be one of the issues and the challenges.
OK, Bronte Coy, royal reporter for news.com.au. Thank you for joining us.
Well, time now for the Great British Giveaway, and there's just 2 weeks left for you to grab the chance to win our biggest prize of the year so far, £25,000 in tax-free cash and a brand new 4-berth camper van. Make sure you don't miss out. Here's all the details you need for a chance to make it yours.
There's just 2 weeks remaining to grab your chance to win our biggest prize of the year so far. Just in time for summer, you could be driving away with your very own 4-berth camper van. This Benny Van 122 could give you the perfect getaway this year, as it comes complete with all of the features you'd expect of a vehicle worth over £67,000. A built-in kitchen and bathroom, dedicated living areas, and panoramic opening rear doors. Plus, you can drive it on your existing license. We'll also give you an incredible £25,000 in tax-free cash. Lines close on the 1st of May, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. The winner may be contacted live after all entry routes have closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Best of luck with that. Still to come, we'll be joined by the Chief Executive of Sex Matters, 1 year on from the landmark Supreme Court ruling on gender. And we'll be asking, has anything actually changed?
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Much of the Mediterranean will see relatively fine conditions over the course of this weekend. Temperatures today around 30 degrees Celsius for some regions, but tomorrow they should ease off a little so, but still very pleasant where you are in the sunshine here. Whilst most places seeing blue skies, there are a few showers lingering, particularly out towards Turkey. Some thunderstorms today, but they will clear into tomorrow and into the start of the new working week. And for them on, it is sunshine for many into the forthcoming week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen,
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again
to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. The time is 10:47 and it's been 1 year since the landmark Supreme Court ruling on single-sex spaces, a decision that was meant to bring clarity in law.
But 12 months on, with guidance still unpublished, questions are growing about what's actually changed and why the government hasn't acted. Well, joining us now is the co-founder and executive director of Sex Matters, Maya Forstetter. I mean, Maya, it does seem, on the face of it, quite extraordinary. This landmark legal case was decided a year ago by the Supreme Court. It was then up to the government to issue guidance to bodies to explain what that meant, to explain to them that only, women, biological women, should be allowed in, say, prisons or hostels, etc., etc. And the government hasn't done it. Why hasn't the government done it?
I don't think they've had the leadership. I mean, the law is the law. Nobody had to wait for the guidance to act, including the government. Everyone needs to follow the law as soon as the Supreme Court laid down its judgment. But it's extraordinary it's taken them a year and they still haven't laid the guidance before Parliament, and now they're saying they won't do it till after the local elections.
Maya, what do you think should be happening right now? Because, of course, as you say, the local elections are coming up. The government says their hands are tied. Do you accept that as an excuse, or should this have been done far sooner, before the purdah period even started?
Well, it should have been done sooner, and it could be done through purdah. I don't think that it's really a good excuse. But as I say, even though they haven't laid the guidance, it's not an excuse for anyone else not to follow the law, and that includes government departments and the civil service. Civil service still has a policy which it adopted in 2019, which says that if a staff member says that they're transitioning, they have the right to use whichever facilities that they want. And if anyone doesn't accept their gender identity, meaning accept that their gender identity replaces their sex, then that's unlawful discrimination. So if you've got a policy like that, and then you've got like a zero tolerance approach to harassment and discrimination, you end up using the Equality Act against women who are just calling for their rights to be respected. And that shouldn't be happening within the civil service today.
Can you just explain, Maya, the sort of real-world impact for anyone who hasn't been following this legal case that closely? If you are, a biological woman who's, say, in a hostel or a prison, or let us know who else might be affected by this, how could this impact you? How could the government not pushing that guidance in place impact you?
I mean, hostels and prisons, yes, but also everyday spaces like gym changing rooms, communal changing rooms, showers in the gym, which are often labelled male and female. And women have been, surprised in those spaces to find themselves with someone who looks and is a man. And then when they complain, they're thrown out of the gym and told that they're banned from the gym for making it an unsafe space. So it affects all of us. It affects women in the workplace, in schools, in universities, and in specialist services like women's refuges, where women are at their most vulnerable, and it absolutely should be a single-sex space.
With all these delays, of course, it has caused uncertainty, let's say, on both sides. And the trans community have been saying that, it's left them with anxiety and uncertainty, fears of exclusion. What do you say to that side of the debate?
Absolutely. Everybody needs clarity. The problem for the trans community is that they've been told for the past 15 years that they had rights that they didn't have. And so obviously some people were very upset to be told that they didn't have those rights. But the fact is, women have rights. And in practical terms, often when you have separate sex facilities, whether it's a changing room, toilets, showers and so on, the practical thing is to have a unisex alternative, so that if somebody doesn't want to use the correct changing room for their own sex, there's somewhere that they can go with dignity and privacy. No one's going to ask any questions, but they don't have the right to use opposite sex facilities because they're there to protect the dignity and privacy of other people.
You said a little earlier on that the reason why the government hadn't published guidance was a lack of leadership. Do you think that it's a political decision on behalf of Bridget Phillipson, who's the Women and Equalities Minister, not to publish that guidance?
I think Bridget Phillipson's been stuck between a rock and a hard place. I think she has wanted to do it. She has a history of working in women's refuges. She knows that women need single-sex spaces, but she hasn't had the leadership from the Prime Minister, and also the civil servants who are running the Office for Government Equality are still the same civil servants who were there for 15 years pushing the idea that trans women are women. Obviously, she could have fired them. She didn't, but that's who she's taking advice from. So, it's been a hot potato that's been passed on from government to government. It's left in her hands, and she hasn't acted with great leadership.
Very quickly, what's your message to Bridget Phillipson then?
Get a move on, lay the guidance, and tell the civil service to follow the law right now.
Well, Maya Forster, thank you for that message, and thank you for joining us on Saturday Morning Live. You say fire civil servants. I think that's a little easier said than done.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got lots more coming up on Saturday Morning Live today, including more on the Prime Minister's Mandelson scandal, and should dead actors be brought to life in films using AI? Don't go anywhere.
Honestly, that absolutely baffles me that is possible. I mean, it's kind of nice for sentimental reasons with, Carrie Fisher and Star Wars and things like that. But, just getting rid of actors altogether, I'm not so sure. Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. Here's your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Whilst there will be a few showers around today, many of us will actually stay dry in the south. It will be more northern parts of the UK that will see the most frequent blustery showers, and that's courtesy of this area of low pressure that's still hanging around. A bit of a squeeze in the ice bars to the south of it, out towards the west, though high pressure building in for Sunday. So many places across the south actually having a largely dry afternoon today. There will be some sunny spells and a mixture of cloud around as well. One or two heavy showers developing across parts of Wales and the Midlands though. These could spark into thunderstorms in one or two spots later today. But in the best of the sunshine in the south, we could reach highs of 17 or 18 degrees Celsius in the southeast of England once again, which is quite warm for the time of year. Further north and west, though, it will be a cooler and more blustery afternoon, and particularly across Scotland, where we'll see the lime share of the showers this afternoon. Some of these will be on the heavy side, and in the breeze it will feel on the cool side, particularly across the Northern Isles. The showers will tend to ease a little bit by the evening across parts of Northern Ireland and also Northern England, so there should be some late spells of sunshine here as well, but the best of the sunshine to end Saturday will be in southern counties of England. As we go through this evening, the showers will become more restricted to parts of northern Scotland in particular, and perhaps one or two just running down the east coast of England, but most places turning dry, clear and quite chilly tonight. A fairly widespread frost developing in the countryside, so gardeners do beware if you do have tender plants already outside. We could see lows of -2 or -3 across parts of Northern Ireland and southern Scotland, and towns and cities falling down to mid to low single figures too. It does promise to be a sunny start to the day on Sunday, though, for most of us, particularly across England and Wales. The cloud will bubble up a little bit, fair weather cloud though, so only a very slim chance of seeing a shower across England and Wales. Most of the showers, though, across the northeastern parts of Scotland, where it will once again be quite breezy and cool here. In the best of the sunshine further south, though, we'll reach highs of 16 degrees.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks remaining to grab your chance to win our biggest prize of the year so far. You could be driving away with your very own 4-berth camper van. This Benny Van 122 could give you the perfect getaway this year. We'll also give you an incredible £25,000 in tax-free cash. Lines close on the 1st of May, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device, and as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock on Saturday the 18th of April, live across the UK. This is Saturday Morning Live.
I wasn't told that it failed security vetting when I was telling Parliament that due process had been followed is unforgivable.
Yes, staggering and unforgivable. Sir Keir Starmer says he wasn't told about Peter Mandelson's failed security vetting. So who knew and why didn't he?
Plus, reports say top aides knew of this scandal for weeks, with new claims that the Prime Minister has lost control inside Number 10.
Elsewhere, Iran says the Strait of Hormuz is now back under its control, warning it's closed again unless shipping gets approval, as Donald Trump presses on with the US blockade. So are we heading for a full-blown energy shock?
And with Tehran and Washington telling completely different stories and markets swinging on every update, just what is going on?
And a royal tour or a rebrand? Prince Harry and Meghan's Down Under tour comes to a close, but was it a success?
And don't fear me.
And is it morally wrong to recreate dead actors using artificial intelligence? A new movie starring the late Val Kilmer using AI is set to be released, and it's causing quite the stir.
The biggest stories, boldest opinions and liveliest debates over the next hour. I'm Olivia Utley.
And I'm Cameron Walker. Your weekend starts right here. Well, you had a lovely day in Paris yesterday, didn't you, Olivia, with the Prime Minister? Was the Prime Minister running away from the Mandelson scandal?
Oh, I think he was. I got the impression he'd quite like to just stay in Paris and not come home at all.
Oh, really?
It's a lovely day there as well, sunny.
Yes, and they do nice cakes and nice, patisseries and things as well.
They do. I didn't get any nice patisseries, but I hear, Cameron.
I did. I did.
Getting some cakes.
Here we are. Yes. So there's a Great British Bake Off cake in London, a tent even in London. So I had to go, and it was the most stressful hour and a half of my life.
This is fantastic.
But we had to do an Easter creation. I also did it with a partner as well. So there was two of us making this cake in an hour and a half. But yeah, it was a little bunny, and the sponge was elderflower, vanilla, and orange zest. So it tasted really, really good.
Did you get to take it home?
Yeah, got to take it home at the end, and we came third because it's a competition, of course. So I think I got overly competitive, which is why I was so stressed out.
Was that number 1 and 2 behind you? Because I think I was sort of sped up.
Well, thank you.
Comical.
The one that was number 1 looks very professional. It had a ruby red slipper on the top and red piped icing. I don't know how they did that in the time because it was very rushed at the end, put it that way. But yeah, do let us know if you've been doing some baking this weekend. It is a Saturday after all. It's the weekend. It's sunny outside. Why not? gbnews.com/your say. Let us know what you think on everything we're talking about today. Get in touch. But first, here's your headlines with Bethany Elsie.
Olivia, Cameron, thank you. Good morning. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 11:03. Iran has announced it has once again closed the Strait of Hormuz as the US continues to blockade Iranian ports. Iran's military command described the US intervention as piracy, and so control of the vital shipping lane and the movement of ships within it is under the strict management and control of Iran's armed forces. It comes after the US President Donald Trump announced the strait had reopened to shipping yesterday. He also insists the US blockade will stay until Tehran reaches a deal with Washington over its nuclear program. A former senior civil servant, Lord Simon MacDonald, is accusing Number 10 of throwing Sir Ollie Robbins under the bus when he was sacked earlier this week. Sir Ollie lost his job as permanent secretary in the Foreign Office after his department was blamed for clearing Lord Peter Mandelson for the role of US ambassador. That's despite him not passing security vetting checks. The government says the Prime Minister only found out Mandelson had failed the checks on Tuesday, with Sir Keir Starmer saying he's furious and described the failure to inform him as staggering. The PM will address the House of Commons on Monday, with Sir Ollie having his say at a parliamentary hearing on Tuesday. The former Defence Secretary Sir Liam Fox told GB News Sir Keir has serious questions to answer.
Starmer stood up and told the House of Commons in September 2025 that full due process had been followed. Now, he makes a great play about his lawyerly skills. And did he do his due diligence? Or did he just say them in the knowledge that they may be misleading to the Commons, but they were helpful to get him through that particular Prime Minister's questions? I don't think he comes out of this well in any way, and if he can't answer those specific questions, he can't survive as Prime Minister.
In Scotland, more than 1,500 people have died while waiting to be discharged from hospital in the 3 years to 2025. That's according to a Freedom of Information request obtained by Scottish Labour. Delayed discharge, also known as bed blocking, is when a patient is deemed medically fit to leave hospital but can't due to inadequate arrangements in the community, like a lack of social care. Well, Public Health Scotland shows in February nearly 2,000 beds on average were occupied by people ready to leave. And millions of older and vulnerable people are being urged to get the spring COVID-19 vaccine, with officials warning previous immunity against the virus can wane over time. People aged 75 and over are eligible for the jab, along with older people in care homes and those with weakened immune systems. Tens of thousands of slots per day are now available at GP practices and community pharmacies across England. NHS England says these patients will be invited to come forward, but they don't need to wait to book an appointment. Those are your latest headlines. I'll be back with more in half an hour.
Thank you, Bethany, and welcome back to Saturday Morning Live with Cameron Walker and me, Olivia Upley.
Now, the Prime Minister's Judgment Day is looming, with pressure mounting on Keir Starmer to resign over his handling of Peter Mandelson's appointment.
Top civil servant Ollie Robbins is said to be furious after being forced out, and he's expected to face the Foreign Affairs Committee next week.
Yeah, I'm going to get the popcorn out for that one, and he's now preparing to give his side of the story after the PM turned on Whitehall, accusing the Foreign Office of failing to tell him Mandelson had failed vetting.
Now, we're joined now by Deputy Editor of Spiked, Fraser Myers. I mean, I suppose the big question on everyone's lips is, can the Prime Minister survive this?
I think it's going to be very difficult. The only thing in Starmer's favour is that the May elections are coming up, and I think anyone who wants to challenge Keir Starmer will wait until that happens so that he can carry the can for the huge bloodbath that's about to come. But really, this is a particularly shocking scandal because either, if you trust the Prime Minister's account, either he is lying, in that he didn't know that Mandelson had failed security vetting, or he doesn't know what's going on in his own government. So he's either lying or incompetent, and these ought to be terminal for a Prime Minister. He said explicitly that the right process has been followed, and he is someone who presents himself as Mr. Rules, Mr. Process. Either the right process hasn't been followed in this case, perhaps the security vetting wasn't the normal vetting that we have come to expect, and Mandelson was waved through in spite of it, or he doesn't know what's going on. And that's, and both, I think, should be terminal.
So even if the Prime Minister inadvertently misled Parliament, you're saying that doesn't stack up?
Well, it doesn't quite stack up because if you think about it, Peter Mandelson is someone who should have come with red flags to anyone who reads a newspaper or who watches television.
Over the last 3 decades.
Over the last 3 decades. He's been sacked 3 times now by 2 different Labour Prime Ministers in 3 decades. He is a walking scandal magnet. His associations with Jeffrey Epstein are well known. We don't know if that's the reason why he failed security vetting. It might have been to do with his business interests in Russia and China. That might have been it. It's confidential, so we don't know what the actual cause of the failure is. But surely anyone with some astute political judgment would know that Peter Mandelson was going to cause problems. And it's going to cause problems for a Prime Minister who presents himself as whiter than white, as someone who's going to turn the page on Tory sleaze. In fact, it turns out that this lot, the Labour Party, is just as dodgy as the last lot.
I mean, there are these huge questions, obviously, about Keir Starmer's political judgment. If he didn't know, then why didn't he know? Why was he so incurious? I suppose the more urgent question is, did he actually mislead Parliament? And is there a possibility that even if he, perhaps it's true that he didn't know that Peter Mandelson had failed to develop vetting, but he stood up and said Peter Mandelson has passed all the vetting, all the processes, and that simply wasn't true. Shouldn't he have found out 100% certain, asked all around, talked to the Foreign Office, etc., before he made that assertion in Parliament? And if he didn't, should there be an ethics investigation, and will he be done for it?
Well, exactly. You have to ask, why did he make that statement? Did he simply make it up? Did he simply feel that it was true and in order to say it, or did he deliberately mislead? And these questions it's kind of an extraordinary timeline as well if you think about it. So it looks as if I think my assessment would be that Starmer made the appointment of Mandelson public. He said that Mandelson was going to be hired actually before the vetting came through. And Ollie Robbins, who's been sacked over this, actually wasn't the head of the Foreign Office at the time that Mandelson was appointed, but he was the head while the vetting was taking place. Perhaps Ollie Robbins and the Foreign Office thought, let's not make things difficult for Keir Starmer, let's not stand in the way. The Prime Minister has already made the appointment. Let's not be a computer says no type department and stand in the way of what he wants to do. But yeah, it is kind of extraordinary. He clearly said that the vetting had gone ahead, that he'd passed the vetting. That clearly wasn't the case. Was he ill-informed? Was he being dishonest? Either are not good.
We had the Labour MP David Pinto on the last hour, and he was defending the Prime Minister and basically saying that civil servants have a duty not to disclose this kind of sensitive information to the Prime Minister. I'm not quite sure why that is the rule, but apparently it is the rule. So is that not a defence for the Prime Minister here?
Well, I think the civil servants have a duty. The process itself is supposed to be confidential. The reasons for the failure of vetting are confidential, but it seems bizarre that the Prime Minister would not be informed about someone he appointed, someone he's going to send to Washington to one of the most important jobs in the Foreign Office, that they wouldn't want to know that they'd failed this vetting. I'm sure you're also going to see there'll be some semantic arguments, some dancing on the head of a pin. Some people are saying, well, the vetting is not actually strictly a yes-no process. They might raise some concerns, but then it's up to the Foreign Office to decide. But maybe let's see what Ollie Robbins says, because I think he'll probably say that, Mandelson failed the vetting and felt that he couldn't overrule the Prime Minister.
Yeah, and Emily Thornberry, of course, is the chair of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, and she's not exactly Starmer's #1 fan.
No love lost between the two. Emily Thornberry was expecting to be the Attorney General when Labour won the election. Starmer instead hired Lord Hermer, one of his best friends, and someone he'd worked with in the human rights lobby. So that is going to be fireworks.
Revenge is best served cold for Emily Thornberry. Thank you very much, Fraser Myers, for joining us on Saturday Morning Live.
Thank you. The time is 11 minutes past 11, and tensions in the Middle East are escalating again, with Iran warning the Strait of Hormuz it is now shut, with passage requiring Tehran's approval.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump insists the US blockade will continue until a deal is done, despite Iran warning that that could trigger further escalation.
Well, joining us now is the Telegraph columnist and author Jake Wallace-Simmons. Jake, good morning to you. What does this mean for our viewers in Britain here this morning?
Well, I think it really is too early to say. It's been too early to say since the beginning of the war, in a way, because there's so many moving parts. There's so many conflicting messages going on. There's so many incremental moves that the Iranians are backing down. No, they're not. Yes, we are. The Americans are spinning it one way. The Iranians are spinning it the opposite way. But really, what it boils down to is that it's an indissoluble problem. You know, the Iranians are not going to give in the longer term with their nuclear ambitions. They're not going to give in with their intentions to destroy the state of Israel, to herald this apocalyptic war which their theology demands of them, and to be a regional menace. And the Americans won't be satisfied until those things are off the table, until the nuclear issue is put to bed, until Iran begins to behave itself as a normal member of the international community and stop menacing the entire region and the world with its terrorism. And so I can't really, the gap between those two positions is so wide that really things haven't changed that much since the beginning of the war. The stakes have just risen on both sides to such an extent that the global economy is in a vice-like grip by the Iranians, and Trump doesn't seem to be able to find a way out of it right now. So we're still stages of impasse, one after the other. And commentators with agendas on both sides are desperate to say this means that the Iranians have won, this means that Donald Trump has won, or vice versa, because everyone's projecting what they want to see into a very fast-moving and evolving scenario. But right now, it's difficult to see what the way forward is going to be.
Zooming out a bit, looking at the bigger picture, has Donald Trump just made a really, really catastrophic mistake getting into this war in the first place? He's replaced one Ayatollah with what sounds like an even more hardline Ayatollah, so no new Iranian regime. And he's made the Iranians realise just how easy and straightforward it is for them to close the Strait of Hormuz and cause complete global economic chaos. Was that just a huge mistake from the president?
Well, I mean, that's what I'm talking about, really. I mean, that's one narrative, definitely. But there are other narratives, because the reality is very, very three-dimensional. So, you know, there's no disputing the fact that the Iranians have taken a massive battering here. You know, the Ayatollah has been killed. I mean, yes, he's been replaced by his son, but he really was an important figurehead in power for many, many decades. A very significant figure. 40 of his top commanders were killed within the first, the opening few minutes of the war. The Iranian armed forces have taken a huge battering, massively degraded. Their missile stockpiles, we don't know exactly how much it's gone down by, but their navy has been destroyed, their air force has been destroyed. They really have taken a huge degradation that's going to be to the benefit of the region, definitely in the longer term. So there's no discounting that. At the same time, the Strait of Hormuz is a problem. And I think that the biggest catastrophic failure that one can say on behalf of Donald Trump is that he failed, apparently, to plan for this exact scenario. This is something that British, American and other allies have been wargaming for decades. If we were to go to war with Iran, what would we do about the Strait of Hormuz? It's been totally open. And yet, apparently, this hubris in the White House led them to attack without a plan for that. But I think that it's important to take a step back and recognize that what other alternative did Donald Trump have? The Iranians have not been compliant over decades of negotiation. They were accelerating towards a bomb. Yes, they were set back by the 12-day war, but still their progress was relentlessly ongoing. They were building up their ballistic missile stockpile again after the 12-day war. They were not relenting in their sponsor of proxies, both in the region and terrorism around the world. This was a problem that wasn't going to go away. And let's not forget those more than 30,000 protesters that were massacred in 2 days in January. this is a problem that isn't going to be going away. If Trump didn't attack now, in 5 years' time, they would be more entrenched, more powerful. The grip on Hormuz potentially would be even greater. And so it had to be done sooner or later. It's just a shame that the planning wasn't in place for Hormuz before action took place.
The UK and France have announced that they will lead a strictly defensive multinational mission to protect shipping, clear mines and ensure freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. Is that going to make any difference whatsoever?
I mean, the tragedy of all this is that it could make a difference if they were working with the Americans properly. And that's not necessarily the Allies' fault. That's more Trump's fault, I think, that he didn't involve them from the beginning. He's insulted his allies consistently. And so, therefore, it's difficult for him to build the coalition that he needs to build. In addition, he's been so erratic with his communication. Allies don't know where they are. So they're trying to form their own independent project to open the Strait of Hormuz, or to maintain it being open after it has been opened by diplomacy. But it's difficult to see how that's going to work with the Americans, who are calling the shots here, when Trump is so erratic and so insulting. And so it's difficult to see how that's all going to coordinate. So, I mean, I don't want to sound inconclusive, but really there are so many moving parts here. Anybody who's selling you an easy narrative, Trump's done badly, the Iranians have won, or vice versa, it is really drawing conclusions too early. This is a war. It hasn't ended. It's not unlikely we'll see a return to the bombs. Let's all wait and see where it goes. But I think one certainty is that we can all agree that we want to see the Iranians defeated and the Allies to be victorious. They are the most evil regime on planet Earth, killing tens of thousands of their own people. For them to fall would be wonderful to see.
Well, Jake Wallace-Simmons, thank you so much for joining us on Saturday Morning Live and for walking through all that in a way that makes it very straightforward and understandable. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, some breaking news to bring you, and police have launched an investigation into an arson attack in Hendon on Friday. Minor damage was caused to the shopfront and no injuries were reported. The investigation is being led by counter-terrorism policing in London, with support from officers in the North West Command area, and we'll of course bring you much more info on that as and when we get it.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. Still to come, we'll be speaking to Michael Hartung, CEO of Invictus Australia, who's been with Harry and Meghan in Sydney this week.
But next, US troops near Iran reportedly being fed a single tortilla and a spoonful of meat. We'll go through that and the rest of today's papers. Oh, that looks lovely, doesn't it? With our panel. This is Saturday Morning Live on GB News, Britain's newsroom.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, and to look through the top stories of today, we're delighted to be joined by Aman Bogle and Scarlett Maguire. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the show. Scarlett, I'm going to start with you. Who's paying for Fergie's lifestyle?
OK, so according to the Daily Mail, Fergie is in an alpine retreat in Austria that is very private, only rich people. I mean, I'd never heard of it. I'd heard of what I thought were the rich.
Fortune.
Cost of fortune. I mean, we're talking sort of 2,000 a week. So what they're saying, because nobody knows who's paying for it, and obviously Fergie goes on and on about how she's broke. I mean, she's always broke. Look at the Epstein emails when she's giving money. Is that the worry is that it's either something like Netflix or a publisher paying because she's going to write a tell-all book or do a tell-all interview.
Gosh.
So actually, that would be even worse. But her friends say she's a very resilient person and a survivor, but only a survivor with lots of money.
Well, she is a survivor in the sense that she keeps getting herself into financial difficulty and seems to be able to scoop out of it, or the late Queen scoops her out of it, or, as we've seen in the Epstein file, a convicted paedophile scoops her out of it.
Precisely.
Which is why she's run away.
I know.
But, I mean, what the problem is, at some point, she's going to have to settle down somewhere, and she was kicked out of Royal Lodge. Ivan.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, look, I think... a lot of people are saying that they're very bad optics and all the rest of it, but I think most people presently, I think, are more bothered about what's happening with the Strait of Hormuz, dare us go back to it, and what's happening at the pumps, and what's happening with the cost of living. And yes, that also...
It's front page of The Sun yesterday.
Yeah, front page of The Sun.
I think we all like to have a nice bitch, actually. We like to forget how awful things are at the pumps, so we like to think, oh, God, isn't Fergie ghastly?
Is it possible to feel a little bit sorry for her? I mean, obviously, she should be making her own money and doing something sensible with her life, but how do you get a job? You come and say, oh, hiya, I'm Sarah Ferguson, will you employ me in your corporation?
I guess that's a question that best answered by Meghan Markle. I mean, she's the master at it. I mean, she's no longer a working royal. She... I think broadly disliked across Britain, and yet she keeps on getting these jobs with Netflix and others. But I think at the end of the day, as long as it's not the taxpayer footing the bill for any of this, I think it should be up to Fergie as to what she wants to do with all this money.
Well, I suppose she's a private citizen, and just apologies for any language which may have been said at this desk momentarily. Don't worry. Right, this story has actually shocked me. President Trump's, the United States troops, what they're being served, hopefully we can get the pictures up for you, of the meals they are being served out in the Middle East while on deployments, look absolutely vile. I mean, they were fed better in the World War I trenches, weren't they? What's this all about, Scarlett?
This is terrible. Well, it's rationing, isn't it? Is nobody thought it would go on this long. Now, apparently, just before the war started, they were given what's called surf and turf, which appears to be lobster and steak.
Nice.
Which is what you give your troops when they're about to go to war, to get them on. But now, this has been going on for ages and ages, and they're getting this sort of food. But apparently, they've been getting bad food for a very long time, and they've been relying on care packages. I mean, many of them are very young, so it's from their mums, but from their relatives. But once the Iran war began, all the mail stopped, and they don't. The care packages are sitting in a warehouse waiting for them, and so these poor people. And I was thinking, when you see the pictures of the warships in the Gulf of Hormuz, and I was thinking, what's it like to be on them? But what I didn't realise is they can't even eat properly. I mean, they're so hungry.
For those of you listening on the radio, we are looking at pictures of boiled carrots and some kind of grey meat on a plastic tray. This is food served on the USS Abraham Lincoln. But Scarlett, you're saying this was kind of food they were getting before the war in Iran?
Well, reading the Telegraph, that's what they were implying, that many of them were relying on care packages that cost an awful lot of money, you know, just to post. That the food in the American Navy, except when you're about to go to war. Because if you look at it, I mean, Pete Hegseth spent millions on lobsters and
this is the US Defence Secretary, for those of you who are unaware.
Precisely. And he also spent nearly $100,000 on a Steinway grand piano for the home of the Chief of Staff.
Well, the UK Navy doesn't have that much to recommend at the moment. Obviously fantastic sailors serving there, but hollowed out. But the food is a lot better. My cousin is actually a chef on a submarine, and the concoctions he makes are absolutely incredible. And he's almost nothing to make it with, and he comes up with these delicious, amazing meals.
That sounds lovely. And Aman, it is slightly rich, perhaps, of President Trump to liken our own Royal Navy aircraft carriers to toys compared to those of the US, and this is the food being served to US sailors.
Well, I think it's fair to say that this story has been doing the rounds for the last 24 hours, and I think I agree with Pete Hegseth, it's fake news. The USS Abraham Lincoln, I mean, it has around 5,000 troops on it, and as the US Navy has confirmed, it's got 30 days plus of food stores remaining on it. And what you were saying earlier about the food parcels that some of the sailors have been getting, all of that has now been resumed. I think the real story here is, who is pushing stories like this to demoralise the people in the West? And secondly, it's also important to know that, let's be honest, the only people starving right now, and wholly the blame for which lies at the doors of the IRGC, are the Iranian people. 40% of their food is imported.
Well, the Pentagon has been contacted for comments. We'll, of course, let you know if they respond. But Iman, Scarlett, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Well, still to come, is it morally wrong to recreate dead actors using AI? A new movie starring the late Val Kilmer using AI is set to be released, and it's causing quite a stir.
Yes, but next we'll be speaking to Michael Hartung, the Chief Executive of Invictus Australia, who's been with Prince Harry and Meghan in Sydney this week, and there's been a very special announcement about supporting veterans in Australia. That's next.
This is Saturday Morning Live on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Whilst there will be a few showers around today, many of us will actually stay dry in the south. It will be more northern parts of the UK that will see the most frequent blustery showers, and that's courtesy of this area of low pressure that's still hanging around. A bit of a squeeze in the ice bars to the south of it, out towards the west, though high pressure building in for Sunday. So many places across the south actually having a largely dry afternoon today. There'll be some sunny spells and a mixture of cloud around as well. One or two heavy showers developing across parts of Wales and the Midlands though. These could spark into thunderstorms in one or two spots later today. But in the best of the sunshine in the south, well, we could reach highs of 17 or 18 degrees Celsius in the southeast of England once again, which is quite warm for the time of year. Further north and west, though, it will be a cooler and more blustery afternoon, and particularly across Scotland, where we'll see the lion's share of the showers this afternoon. Some of these will be on the heavy side, and in the breeze it will feel on the cool side, particularly across the Northern Isles. The showers will tend to ease a little bit by the evening across parts of Northern Ireland and also Northern England, so there should be some late spells of sunshine here as well, but the best of the sunshine to end Saturday will be in southern counties of England. As we go through this evening, the showers will become more restricted to parts of northern Scotland in particular, and perhaps one or two just running down the east coast of England, but most places turning dry, clear and quite chilly tonight. A fairly widespread frost developing in the countryside, so gardeners do beware if you do have tender plants already outside. We could see lows of -2 or -3 across parts of Northern Ireland and southern Scotland, and towns and cities falling down to mid to low single figures too. It does promise to be a sunny start to the day on Sunday, though, for most of us, particularly across England and Wales. The cloud will bubble up a little bit. Fair weather cloud, though, so only a very slim chance of seeing a shower across England and Wales. Most of the showers, though, across northeastern parts of Scotland, where it will once again be quite breezy and cool here. In the best of the sunshine further south, though, we'll reach highs of 16 degrees.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you. Bulletins on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. The time is 32 minutes past 11, and Prince Harry and Meghan's latest trip down under has drawn big crowds and plenty of questions about what the new model of royal life looks like. But one of the key roles, perhaps, for Prince Harry is his support of the Invictus Games, which supports wounded and serving personnel with their recovery. And Michael Hartung, the chief executive of Invictus Australia, has been with the couple this week, particularly in Sydney, yesterday, I believe, and about what the reality is like working with veterans. So, Michael, good morning to you, but good evening to where you are. I believe there was an announcement this week about a new festival with Invictus Australia. Tell us a little bit about that and what was announced by Prince Harry.
Yeah, good evening from Australia. Yes, we had a special announcement earlier this week that with the Invictus Games Foundation there in the UK and the support of their partner ATCO, we are launching the Invictus Australia Sports Festival, which will take place in Perth in October later this year. So an extension of the Invictus movement, the highly successful games, to a format that is useful at a regional level that will help engage other nations from our region, and an opportunity to invite some of those nations that are not currently participating but have defence forces in our region to come along and look at the value of the games and the concept that sits behind Invictus and how that might apply to their defence community.
We've been talking a bit on the show about whether Harry and Meghan's visit was a success. From your perspective, in terms of how much did it raise the profile of Invictus, would you say the visit was a success?
Absolutely. It's been 8 years since the Duke and Duchess were in Australia for the Invictus Games in 2018. And following the Invictus Games, we launched Invictus Australia, becoming the first country to create that ongoing Invictus program that works at a community level. And since that time, we've supported, we'll tick over this year, 30,000 veterans and families to participate in sport at a community level. So that ripple effect of the Games has been really strong. And their presence this week has been an opportunity to thank all of those that have helped us do what we've been doing, but also speak directly to veterans and families that have been helped and understand how the impact of the Games has really then gone on to create other opportunities and pathways and ways in which veterans and families have been supported to maintain and improve their wellbeing long term.
I believe there was an engagement on Sydney Harbour with the Invictus Games yesterday. Were you there with Prince Harry during that engagement, and indeed Meghan? What was the reaction like, do you think, from the veterans and serving personnel who met them?
Yeah, it was terrific. We had a small group, 10 veterans and family members on board a sailboat, and they got to spend some time together. All of them had been part of Invictus Games previously, and so they were able to talk about their particular experiences from those games, what they valued most, but also what they've done since then. And that's really what we're trying to drive home with people that we get involved in the Invictus Games, is it's a great moment in time, a great stepping stone, but it's also what comes after that. That's really important to make sure you get the maximum benefit from it. So for them to spend time and hear directly from those that they've helped was pretty special.
Yeah, and speaking of what comes after, just very, very briefly, of course, we've got Birmingham in 2027, the Invictus Games here in the United Kingdom. How is Australia gearing up for that event?
Yeah, we've had great interest already. So we've started the process of applications for that particular team. We've been inundated, so we're currently working our way over the next few months through that process of whittling down all those applications to the team that will eventually go. And some of us will be over there in Birmingham for the year to go in July. So we're really looking forward to it. You know, this next edition of the Games, to see it come back to the UK is terrific, because obviously it was all started there in 2014. So to be able to return, we're all looking forward to it.
Oh, wonderful. Very much look forward to seeing how Team Australia do in Birmingham. Michael Hartung, thank you so much for joining us on Saturday Morning Live.
We're delighted to be joined in the studio now by royal reporter Pandora Forsyth. Pandora, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Of course, it wasn't just about Invictus this trip. There's been a lot of talk about this trip being a bit of a half in, half out, a mixture of charity and commercial work for the Duke and Duchess. Isn't that exactly what the late Queen banned, though, about 6 years ago?
You literally took the words out of my mouth there. It's been duty and dollars, is what I would say this week. And I think from Harry and Meghan's side of the camp, as it were, the Sussexes, I think this has probably been a great success for them. However, I can't help but think the palace looking on, which I know they have been this week, obviously, and thinking, well, it's exactly that. It is the half in, half out. And actually, I would wonder what the late Queen would think. But of course, they're still using their titles. And of course, it's brilliant that they are going to this children's hospital, but you can't help but think this children's hospital that they did go to, and of course are shining a light upon, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't have gone there, has also been visited by working senior royal family members in previous years as well. So in terms of their itinerary, you can't help but draw a comparison between them and, of course, the working senior members of the royal family as it stands.
I mean, as you implied there, the late Queen probably wouldn't be very happy about this at all. We suspect that the King and Prince William aren't happy about it at all either. Is there anything they can do about it, or do they just have to watch on from the sidelines?
Well, they can watch on from the sidelines. Of course, we do know that the communications between the Sussexes and the palace is not brilliant, to say the least. However, I suppose, in a way, perhaps it's showing the palace that perhaps maybe there is room for them in the future should they want to come back to the UK. I was reading the papers this morning, and lots of the conversation now is going towards, well, you know, when they are doing the good things like visiting the Royal Children's Hospital, they are getting good press. So maybe there is a lesson to be learnt here. But of course, then they're also got ventures there where they're also potentially gaining money as well privately. So they're kind of stuck between this hard place where they need to be financially independent too.
Yeah. What I don't understand is we see the pictures here of Harry and Meghan, and there are crowds welcoming them. I'm sure there are lots of people who don't want them there. There wasn't much in terms of security. There was some police for crowd control, yes, but in terms of their personal protection, privately funded by their American bodyguards who clearly can't carry firearms, etc., etc. Harry's excuse for not bringing Meghan to the UK is this security issue. Do you think this may have given Harry the confidence to bring Meghan back, or do you think there's something more to this?
It's interesting you say this, because I was looking at the pictures this week, and actually, no, it wasn't like any of the crowds that they had there 8 years ago, but there were several hundred people in some of the engagements that they were going to, and they were getting very close to Harry and Meghan, and I couldn't help but think, I do wonder what Harry is making of this. But I suppose I sort of have to underline here, Harry's case is also about the children. Now, I don't know whether he'd ever want to bring the children into that kind of spotlight, but from a Meghan perspective, you can't help but think, OK, well, they've gone to Australia and they've been absolutely fine with their personal protection and, of course, a taxpayer-funded money in Australia with a view of their security too. But, I mean, they're totally different sides of the world, right? I mean, you've got royals, you know, in Australia, the whole conversation is around, well, you know, should we really be part of the Commonwealth anyway? But then, of course, you've actually got the home of the monarchy in the UK, so it's two very different security situations there.
Do you think this Australia trip gives us a bit of a taste of what Harry and Meghan's life might look like going forwards? Obviously, Netflix have pulled out of their deal with Meghan. A couple of months ago, everyone was sort of wondering what's going to happen to them next. What are they going to do? Maybe this is what they're going to do, go on sort of half charity, half money-making tours around the world.
I suspect this is exactly it. But of course, as the children grow up and, you know, family is so important, you can't help but think, well, actually going into the future, how much interest is there going to be around Harry and Meghan, because they're not part of the royal family anymore? Are they going to drive the publicity that these corporations want them to drive? Because as far as I understand, the speaking event which Meghan went to at the weekend actually didn't sell out. I mean, perhaps that was a price point issue, given the fact that the tickets were over $1,000 each for this girls' weekend. But you know, moving on, I digress. I think we just have to think about the popularity of Harry and Meghan going on to different countries, and they also will need those countries to be OK with taxpayer-funded money on security when they're there.
Well, I suspect I already know the answer to this, but let us know what you think. gbnews.com/USA. Pandora, thank you very much for joining us. That's Pandora Forsyth, the broadcast journalist and a royal expert.
Well, it is time now for the Great British Giveaway, and there's just 2 weeks left for you to grab your chance to win our biggest prize of the year so far, £25,000 in tax-free cash and a brand new four-berth camper van. Make sure you don't miss out. Here's all the details you need for a chance to make it yours.
There's just 2 weeks remaining to grab your chance to win our biggest prize of the year so far. Just in time for the summer, you could be driving away with your very own four-berth camper van. This Benny Van 122 could give you the perfect getaway this year, as it comes complete with all of the features you'd expect of a vehicle worth over £67,000. A built-in kitchen and bathroom, dedicated living areas, and panoramic opening rear doors. Plus, you can drive it on your existing license. We'll also give you an incredible £25,000 in tax-free cash. Lines close on the 1st of May, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. The winner may be contacted live after all entry routes have closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, still to come, should dead actors be brought back to life in films using AI? We've been talking about this all morning, and generally we're pretty creeped out. Do let us know what you think. But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Much of the Mediterranean will see relatively fine conditions over the course of this weekend. Temperatures today around 30 degrees Celsius for some regions, but tomorrow they should ease off a little so, but still very pleasant where you are in the sunshine here. Whilst most places seeing blue skies, there are a few showers lingering, particularly out towards Turkey. Some thunderstorms today, but they will clear into tomorrow and into the start of the new working week. And for them on, it is sunshine for many into the forthcoming week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Who joins us now? Steve, we've got an awful lot of questions for you. An awful lot of questions. What on earth are you doing? And why?
That question gets asked so many times. Firstly, good morning, Stephen and Bethany. Currently sat in kitchen with my bits and pieces, and this was all down to boredom. I was forcibly retired through injury from the ambulance service, and I then became house husband. And you can only cook and clean for so many hours, and then the boredom increases. And I was sat with my wife, Kat, one rainy day, similar to today. I picked up a tape measure, went into the garage, picked up the plug that you can see over my shoulder, and thought, I think I can make this 10 times its size. And then that just snowballed.
So you're I hope you don't mind me saying, Steve, but you're 62 years old. I imagine you haven't been retired for that long, and you've already created 20 installations. Where do you put them all?
That is the same question asked by the ladies. I managed to make things that are easy to hang on walls and get up into the loft and in my workshop, the summer room, because the tape measure, let's see, there is a table that gets used in the summer room. I could sell them, but a lot of people saying you should create a business, and I don't want a business. I want the joy of making things and the joy of people's faces when they witness them and even hold them. And one of the, even though some have been very intricate to make, the one that everybody has to see is this.
GB News, the People's Channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in, the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages. Because the news is going to happen. So get a head start today. Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition. Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. The time is 11:47 and some breaking news for you now. There are reports of gunfire after at least 2 vessels attempted to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, according to the news agency Reuters, and it comes as Iran moves to close the key shipping route again, accusing the US of failing to meet its ceasefire obligations.
Yes, and we'll bring you more on that on GB News as it develops. Well, in other news, a new Western featuring Val Kilmer uses AI to recreate his voice and appearance on screen with his family's backing. Let's have a look at the trailer.
Fear the dead, and don't fear me.
Thing is, if we didn't tell you that that was AI, would you know that was AI?
I wouldn't have a clue.
That's probably what's scary about it. Anyway, the film, even called As Deep as the Grave, shows him across multiple stages of life, despite never filming a single scene before his death.
Absolutely extraordinary. I have to say, Cameron and I all morning have been saying, oh, how creepy, how horrible, and then the advert came on and we were like, oh, that looks quite good, actually. Well, supporters say it's the future of storytelling, giving actors a legacy beyond the grave, but critics warn it raises serious ethical questions about consent and authenticity.
Well, let's speak now to the journalist and broadcaster Lee Purvis. Lee, good morning to you. Now, there is a law that's been passed in the last couple of years in California, basically saying that the estate of the deceased actor or the family of the deceased actor needs to give consent if they are going to be used for AI purposes. But is that enough? Is there a danger, perhaps, that young talents are going to be kind of forced out of the industry over this?
Of course, there's a huge danger. And of course, as you know, in our industry, in journalism as well, you know, as soon as somebody mentions the words AI, everyone tends to panic. However, in this particular instance, you know, you're looking at one of the arguably most ethical films made using AI in this particular instance. And of course, in this instance as well, Kilmer's family did give their permission. He had, of course, already previously signed up to take part in this film. And due to ill health and throat cancer, he was, of course, unable to continue with that. So in this particular instance, there was the permission sought, and you have actors unions both in America and in the UK, Equity we have here, SAG-AFTRA in the States, arguing vehemently against this. However, if you look at our media law regulations, so for example, our law is very much different in this country as opposed to America. Donald Trump signed a document last December which was banning plans to allow each individual state to have different laws when it comes to the use of generative AI and the entertainment industry. And some say long may that continue, but absolutely, it's all down to ethics. Where is this going to end? Actors unions are doing what they can to introduce things such as the Tilly tax, which is a tax levied at film producers who have to pay a higher sum of money to use AI. Which would then automatically go to the actor or the actor's family or estate. And also something called the No Fakes Act, which of course, as you say, basically is there to combat unauthorised use of actors' faces and voices.
I mean, there could be an issue, obviously not in this case, but you could have the family of an actor who's died who would actually quite like to make some money, and they could say that the actor would have consented. But what if there was a discrepancy between what the family felt and what the actor thought? It's a huge ethical quagmire, isn't it?
It is a huge ethical dilemma, if you like, actually. And I think disinformation, equals possible discrimination as well. And, it's going to be a balance. But again, you're talking about the wishes of one family in an estate and these, filmmakers who have endless pots of cash, let's not forget. And I think a lot of the time, that may sway a certain situation. I think the future is huge with AI and the world of entertainment. We've even heard recently Marilyn Monroe may be making a comeback. Michael Jackson's voice, will that be used to make more music? And time will tell, but absolutely, this needs strong regulation. And actually, there are moves afoot to regulate this as much as possible.
OK, journalist and broadcaster Lee Purvis, thank you very much for joining us. I mean, I think it's going to get to a point where the general public will want to pay for real people, either real films, real actors, real journalists, and, because there's so much AI slop out there.
So much AI slop out there, exactly. And books written by AI as well, just horrible. I hate the whole idea of it, but maybe that's be old-fashioned. Well, thank you guys at home for joining us on Saturday morning live. Really enjoyed having you today on our sofa.
Yes, and it's good to be in the shoes of Charlie Peters for a day, but he'll be back next week, I'm sure, as well. Lots more coming up on GB News. Dawn Neeson, that's next.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. There are some heavy showers for some of us through the course of this afternoon and this evening, but for many it will be a dry end to Saturday with some sunny spells. And that's courtesy of an area of high pressure that's going to be building in across the UK from the southwest as we go through the next 24 hours, and that means that Sunday will be largely dry for the vast majority. But out there this afternoon and this evening we've still got some heavy showers, perhaps the odd thunderstorm across parts of the Midlands, East Wales and the east of England for a time. Most places though will turn much drier overnight, with the showers primarily becoming restricted to parts of Northern Ireland, northern and western Scotland. And in the very far north of Scotland it will stay quite windy, winds still gusting into the 40s of miles per hour for Shetland. But otherwise, a cold night to come, temperatures falling to 4 to 6 degrees above freezing in towns and cities, and in the countryside we'll see a fairly widespread grass frost. There'll also be some patchy mist and fog developing by the end of the night, particularly across southwest England and South Wales. But otherwise, many parts of England and Wales will start the day on Sunday with blue skies and wall-to-wall sunshine. 1 or 2 showers across parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland, but also some sunny spells in between the showers here. Across northeastern Scotland, though, here generally much more in the way of low cloud, outbreaks of rain or showers, and that will continue through much of the day, so disappointingly chilly here, a brisk northwesterly wind continuing. Otherwise, though, winds will be light, and whilst there'll be a bit of fair weather cloud that will bubble up through the course of the afternoon, many places will stay dry, and there'll be a good deal of sunshine as well, particularly across the south.